What's the worst thing someone tried to correct you about, something you're specialized at? Story 1. I'm majoring in archaeology. I had a guy start talking to me about dinosaurs. I correct him and say it's a fairly common misconception, but paleontology and archaeology are two different fields, and I'm studying humans, not dinosaurs. He doubles down and insists I need to know about dinosaurs because what do you do if you're digging up ruins and find a dinosaur fossil? Call a paleontologist? He smugly tells me I'll be useless in the field if I don't know about dinosaurs, and I better start registering for paleontology courses and leaves. I still don't know about dinosaurs. Story 2. You wouldn't believe the number of times people tried to tell me that people only become diabetic if they eat too much sugar and insist that they are right. I'm a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed at 14 months. Was I drinking soda from my bottles and using ring pops as pacifiers then? Story 3. I'm not really specialized, but a Redditor tried correcting me about the geography of my country, Norway, claiming that it was very much flat like all the other Nordic countries, and he refused to believe me when I told him that it's the opposite and is filled with mountains. Story 4. So, Canadian lawyer here. I used to do primarily firearms law. I taught a course in firearms law at university. I've been consulted on it by lawyers. I've had judges tell other lawyers to phone me with firearms law questions. I had a law student tell me that I was oh so wrong about firearms law on a particular topic. Eventually, they went and cited a particular case, which I politely advised them that they were wrong about. They kept going on, talking about how just because I'm a lawyer and they're a student doesn't mean that they're wrong. Meanwhile, I'm just holding my tongue. Eventually, someone else chimed in to be like, don't you know who that is? And the case you cited was a case he personally argued and won on. Satisfying as fuck. If heaven exists, I think I just want to have it be a never-ending series of these moments where I'm the expert. Story 5. I'm a food scientist, so this happens basically all the goddamn time. One person insisting that MSG gives her terrible migraines. She was eating pizza at that exact time. Someone insisting that you should drink apple cider vinegar to alkalize your body to prevent diseases. I point out that it's an acid. He insists it's not. Apple cider vinegar. Another person telling me how agave nectar is so much healthier and how I should replace all the sugar I eat with it. Tell her it's just a fructose-glucose mix and you might as well use corn syrup. She got really mad, like irrationally mad. There is so much misinformation about food that this is basically a constant for me. Story 6. Asked to do the rear brakes on a classic Vespa. I think it may have been a 200 Rally, not sure. It was decades ago. So the owner and his pal turn up with a scooter. I loosen off and remove the rear rim and tire, loosen the hub nut, and go to put the rear rim and tire back on. Oh, hey, wait a minute, mate. What the fuck you doing? I'm getting the hub off. Not like that, you're not. So I tell them I'm going for a cuppa and a smoke, and I'll be back when they've removed the hub. 4 hours. 4 bloody hours they were at it. Hub wouldn't budge, not 1 millimeter. Getting bored, I go back to them, put the rim and tire on, screw in and tighten 2 wheel bolts, and using a mallet, hit 3 times at one point. Then 3 times 180 degrees opposite, rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times. The whole rim, tire, hub assembly lifts off. I charge them half a day labor for a 30-minute job. Story 7. I studied history at uni and worked for a while as a tour guide in Prague, Czech Republic. I had a customer once on a walking tour of the city go really snarky with me because I called the river running through the city the Vltava. He declared to the whole tour that that wasn't his name. I asked him if he'd heard it referred to as the Moldau, as that's the German name for the river during the Habsburg era when the German was the official language. But he said no, and was I stupid? The river was called the Danube. I pointed out to him that the Danube doesn't run through Prague and asked if maybe he was thinking of Brno. No, he had definitely read in a guidebook that it was the Danube, and why the hell was he paying money for this tour if the guide didn't even know what the river was called? At which point another tourist in the group showed him her guidebook where it clearly said Vltava. Then another showed him a map, and another showed him another guidebook, and so on, until the whole group had basically showed him what a twazzer he was being. He didn't apologize, of course, but at least he shut up for the rest of the tour. Story 8. I had to leave r/welding for this reason. I'm a welder on nuclear submarines with over 14 different X-way welding qualifications at this company alone. I would constantly get into arguments with people who are new and have no real world experience with welding. The amount of wrong information being thrown out left and right over there is insane. There are plenty of very knowledgeable folks there, but they are overshadowed by the ignorant. There are plenty of very knowledgeable folks there, but they are overshadowed by the ignorant. Aliens describing Earth to other aliens. Story 9. My art teacher in school took the yellow paint from me and drew a massive sun in the corner of my picture. I was 5, and I was already fucking brilliant at drawing suns. The cow. Story 10. Not me, but yesterday I was at a physics lecture given by Donna Strickland, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics last year for her work in lasers. During the questions afterwards, some kid, either undergrad or young grad, I didn't know him, was all, "I have a comment more than a question." It proceeded to explain some laser technique to her and that she could use it. Her response was "Yes, we are well familiar with X in my lab and use it." I was just kind of amazed at the moxie of a kid who tried to tell a Nobel Prize laureate how to do her research in a room packed with hundreds of people. There's one in every field. I've known a few ancillary candidates in my field just starting out, working with kids with autism who think that they have it all figured out because they're a psych major and took child development classes. Story 11. I'm a climber. People tell me to wear gloves all the time. There is a form of climbing where gloves would be somewhat acceptable, although even then a bit questionable, but in free climbing and bouldering, you cannot wear gloves because your fingers actually allow you to grip onto smaller pieces of rock. I totally get you. Got asked that question too a few times and then offered the people to join me and wear gloves. One person joined me once and tried it seriously with those thin woolen gloves, and she realized she had been wrong. She is now my reference person if someone asks that question again. Story 12. I'm a Harley mechanic, and I swear most Harley riders have to pretend they know everything about their bike. I don't even argue with them anymore. I just tell them what's up, and if they want to debate about it, I say, okay, and walk away. I know a guy who built his Harley entirely, or almost entirely, from spare parts. His party trick is to ask other enthusiasts what year model it is. The correct answer is all of them. Story 13. A new house gets built next door to mine, and shortly after the owners move in, they knock on my door to complain that my house is built too high. I explain that my house was and is built on flat ground, and their builder has built their house lower and undercut my fence. The guy proceeds to give a long-winded spiel about how earthworks are done and my house is too high and I have to fix it. I then explain that I do earthworks for a living, have done the earthworks for 300 plus houses in my suburb alone, and around 1,200 in the local area. I name his builder, site supervisor, engineer, the exact floor levels in the street, and the law that says that he has to pay to fix my fence. He still hasn't paid, and legal procedures are beginning soon. Story 14. I'm a professional pastry cook. The GM at my new job tried to reteach me how to crack eggs. Story 15. That flying is a dangerous mode of travel. I'm an ATC. Story 16. I didn't specialize on it, but when I worked at the deli in my local grocery store, I had a guy come in asking for some sliced ham. I asked him if he wanted Black Forest ham, honey baked, or mesquite ham. He looked at me and said it's not mesquite, it's mystique. I pointed at the sign and label on the actual effing ham that said mesquite ham, but he still corrected me. I gave up and gave him his damn mystique ham. This was a good 15 years ago, and I'm still mad about it. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch our YouTube video. If you find our content helpful and enjoyable, please click the subscribe button to stay updated on any new videos we share in the future. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our next upcoming videos.